Hello, I'm James Toy, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for KCRAR. You're about to watch one of our candidate interviews, an unfiltered, front row look at how those seeking office approach the issues that shape private property rights and the real estate industry as a whole. We share these conversations publicly so you can hear directly from the candidates, understand their positions in their words, and cast your vote with confidence. Good afternoon. Well, thank you so much for joining us over here at KCRAR. We really very much appreciate your time and the opportunity to speak with you about the issues that matter to realtors. We would love if you could kick us off and maybe introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for public office.
Yeah, hi. I'm Melanie Adkins, and I'm running for Lee Summit City Council District 3. So that's Lakewood and everything north of Chipman. I'm a third generation resident of Lee Summit. I've been there my whole life. I've lived in other bigger and smaller cities. And when we began our family, we knew that Lee Summit was where we were going to stay. I've been a lifelong community organizer, been a small business owner. I've always been civically engaged with the community. And more so with the council the last several years. And I'm really invested in making sure that our community stays strong and that we're growing intentionally in a wise way and staying economically balanced and communicating with our citizens and really doing what's best for the city in the long run. So I'm really, really eager for the chance to serve.
Well, very much appreciate that answer. And for your awareness, I'm James Toy. I'm the SVP of Government Affairs for KCRAR. I'm joined today by my teammate, Jeff Carson. He's the director of our Kansas advocacy. And Dan and Jim, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. So, Melanie, my name is Dan Hartman. I'm president-elect of KCRAR. So in 27, I'll be president of the association. I'm currently an RPAC trustee. And also, I am an elected official here in Smithville as an alderman. So I can relate to what it's like to run for office.
You've been through it. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, and my name is Jennifer Justice, 26-year realtor and now public policy coordinating committee member, as well as a member of all the advocacy things since it looks like about 2010. And I'm currently running for Clay County presiding commissioner.
Hey, great.
And Melly, you remember me when I worked with Mom.
Yes. How are you doing?
I was her favorite government affairs director that she worked with.
Yes, you were. You sure were.
I think she would disagree, and if Derek were in the room, I know he would disagree.
Talks about you frequently. Loves you. Yes.
Same here. I miss her.
Yeah. I think she misses being there too. She talks about it all the time.
Okay.
Well, Melanie, for the sake of time, we're going to jump right into the interview process. And if our friend Dan here would like to start with the first couple of questions, we would greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, Melanie. So, housing is a major issue in communities across the region. What is your perspective on the key housing challenges facing residents, and how would you approach addressing them as Council District 3?
Yeah. Well, we do have really complicated housing issues. And I know that that's not just in Lee Summit. I know that's regionally and nationally. I know this is a national problem that we're facing. And it's an interesting dichotomy. And I've been talking about it a lot with people because in Lee Summit, where we are booming, we've got lots of development, lots of growth, lots of really positive metrics are growing. But when your community grows, so do your home values, which is great, but it also impacts affordable housing. So the balance of how do you grow your community and grow strength, but still keep affordable housing for the people in transition, like new students and retirees and single family, like how do you, or single people, how do you make sure that there's enough housing for all different kinds of people at all phases of life? And so I think the biggest problem is that there's not an easy solution. And that is something that I don't want to take for granted. I really, really want to avoid saying things like, well, we're just going to fix this and it'll be done. Like there is not an easy way to fix it. And so coming into council, I really want to, I don't know if it's establishing a coalition or creating a housing commission or moving the city in a direction to really get lots of people in the room to discuss the whole ecosystem of housing, because it could be tax credits, or it could be the lot sizes, which have already been impacted in Lee Summit. It could be state tax credits. There's a lot of different working with developers and figuring out what they need to bring in the missing middle, however you define missing middle, because I've seen it defined in lots of different ways, but duplexes, figuring out how to get lots of people in the room to try lots of things, and not just to say that there's one easy answer, because there's definitely not. So lots of expertise in the room is what's needed. And I know regionally, I'm part of Truman Heartland Community Foundation, and our nonprofit is involved in housing. Like, our initiative this year is affordable housing. And so people in my office are going to the Jackson County Health Department and LISC and MARC board, because they're all in regional discussions around affordable housing. And it's a big undertaking, and there's just not an easy solution. But I want Lee Summit to really focus in and bring heads together and come up with a longer term plan that really just hones in on it.
Yeah, and I think that you answered that well, because there isn't one size fits all. I think it's not just a federal or state, it is a local issue. And so there's a lot of different, I think, solutions that you talked about that could work for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, did you have anything you wanted to add or in that particular question?
No, nope. I think we've got questions to outline all of that, so we'll just keep going.
Wonderful. All right. So question 2 for you, Melanie, is economic development is essential for a thriving community. What is your vision for attracting new employers, supporting existing businesses, and fostering long-term economic growth?
Yeah. Well, luckily I don't need my own vision because I feel like the Lee Summit is really unique, or maybe they're not. I think they're pretty unique because they've got a really strong strategic plan in place. And that I know that some other cities maybe are just now getting there started, or maybe they haven't dug in as deep. But in Lee Summit, there was a 2018 strategic plan that was a 10-year plan, and which turned into a land use plan, a 30-year development plan. So they've really done a good job of mapping out, like physically mapping out where the activity centers are going to go, where there's going to be parkland, where there's going to be single family reserved home. They've really done a good job of preparing in advance to bring in developers who can do mixed use and who can really have all they need in one place. To have the leeway to build what they need in one place in order to get their returns, in order to build the retail and the sales and those commercial things that are going to bring the jobs. And that's why we just got Costco this year, is because the pieces are falling together so well, because the people in the last 8 years have just really worked hard to make sure that they're creating a plan that's going to stay, and that it's not the burden of anybody on council to have to decide if each step is a good step, because if you follow the plan, you know that it's going to be a good step. And housing is included in that. They've got good percentages for how to divide up single family and multifamily percentage wise, and definitely, of course, where it's located. But I think that developers like to know that Lee Summit is willing to collaborate and willing to help them. And I just met with our EDC director, is Joe Perry. And he's been here for a year or two, and he's fantastic. And he's like, I don't know why more people don't ask me questions. I'm here to talk whenever you are. And we had a really good talk, and he just launched his strategic plan as well. And his strategic plan really highlights the need for, what's the word? I want to, now I'm going to blank on the word, but the word is building the infrastructure around the roads prior to development coming, so that when a developer gets there, or so that when they're going to build out, it's already easier to get started instead of starting from scratch every time. It's something to do with middle of the road planning. I've blanked on the word, but it's part of his strategic plan that putting this planning in place is what's going to make it easier, more welcoming, so that everyone's just not back to the drawing board every time they try to come.
Melanie, we actually
Joe's
heard from
super
Joe Perry.
smart.
We heard from Joe Perry this morning at the commercial coffee. So I was just with him about 4 or 5 hours ago. Yeah, he put on a great
And
he
he's
put on a
from the
great
port.
program.
Joe
He's
is
on the
a
board.
previous Port KC guy, and so if you have not seen what the port is doing, agree with it or not, they are moving and shaking. And Joe was foundational on a lot of that stuff that is now coming to fruition. So the guy is undeniably an amazing force and very intelligent.
He's so good. He's so good. He likes to say what's on the other side of the coin. He always likes to say, here's an idea, and on the other side of the coin, you have this idea. And he likes to look at both sides of every issue, which is fantastic because there's always pros and cons of anything you can talk about. So I love that he always keeps both things in mind. But yeah, he's a great mentor.
Excellent. Well, Jennifer, ask away. Your turn.
All right. In terms of affordability, accessibility, and diversity of housing options, they continue to be priorities that we have in the regional sense. What policies or initiatives would you support to help ensure the community meets the needs of the current and the future residents?
Yeah. I guess there's a lot of different ones. And I know in Lee Summit in particular, they've made good steps because they've already reduced the lot sizes. So that's already some progress they made. Right now, even as of last night's city council meeting, they've been going through the ODRs. Is that the right number, the right names? They've been trying to reduce red tape and simplify like the permit process and the planning process, going all the way through the steps. So they've been trying to do that and minimize things. So what I would want to do is stay on board. The Amy Nassif was the prior development person at Lee Summit, and she has a very long, robust list of things that they can do to improve. So the first thing is to stay on track with that. But otherwise, in terms of identifying other ways to move forward, it's why I want to lean towards getting a commission together or getting some sort of expert group that can bring these things to the table in perpetuity, so that we're not figuring it out ourselves, so that we're relying on the experts in the area to tell us what the new things are and what are proven systems. One thing I do support is that part of our strategic plan has the percentages laid out, like 65% single family, 20% duplexes, triplexes, and then 15% apartments. And I think that's great. I think we're right within the margin of error right now. And I think if we keep that routine going, then that's one bucket that's kind of safe. That's one bucket that is predictable. We can keep our balance that way. And then after that, after those percentages are balanced, then the other thing to focus on is affordability of those places. So that's a whole separate issue. So balancing quantity is one thing, but balancing pricing of them is another issue. And I think you do that directly with developers through those tax credits and through other things, through other avenues that are available. I've even heard of some places where they map out like an ideal subdivision of duplexes, or the developer maps out the ideal space, and then they put that on repeat so that it's easier to duplicate that in other areas without going through all the red tape twice again. So looking for ways that are working in other communities and trying to bring them here.
Yeah, I've heard that with approved plans. And James, you may know who else is doing that currently, but I've seen a couple municipalities that are looking at approved plans with approved people so that they can streamline processes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Surely there's a list somewhere of all these best practices, and I just want to see them all in one place and see us routinely reporting back to those. Like, who's in charge of this? Like, let's get this. Let's get this.
We actually at the National Association of Realtors, and James and Jeff, I'll bring this Thursday, but we have the housing supply accelerator model. And I'll bring that to you guys, and then we can share that with Lee Summit as well as other municipalities. But it just came out of the National Association of Realtors State and Local Policies issues.
That's fantastic.
So,
And
Dan, do you have
Melanie-
anything to add to that? Yeah, James.
Oh, well, Melanie, I was going to let you know, if you have an interest in kind of pre-approved designs and things of that nature, I would encourage you to look at Overland Park's Portfolio Home program. They rolled it out within the past 6 months, pre-approved homes. You know how they say history repeats itself? Well, it's kind of like going back to the old Sears catalog. You pick out your prefab home, they instantly ship it to you. Kind of in that same vein, pre-approved designs, quick builds, reduces a lot of the permitting fees for developers. So if that's something you're looking at for, your area, I would encourage you to look at their model. It's pretty sound.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And even if if there's 10 things on the list of what you could do, I don't know if that's the best one. Like I don't know enough to know which way the best practices, but I really want everyone in a room to decide together and intentionally move towards those things. Like I really want, and I don't know if we have that in Lee Summit, which is like a co-op or a coalition that can really figure those things out. And that's what I want to push for, is people that can evaluate, what do we do next? What are we going to implement? What are we going to implement in which time? And let's get them done and get them cranked out, making those things available.
Great.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, gentlemen, on affordability, accessibility, and diversity of housing options?
No, Gina, I was just going to say that yesterday I had the opportunity to hear the policymaker or the government affairs for Penny Mac yesterday, and they talked a lot about that. There was a lot of conversation yesterday during the Housing Economic Summit that I attended, just about ways to reduce, to make it attainable for people to have homes. And that includes manufactured homes, recognizing that it no longer has to have a chassis underneath, kind of things like that. So just right along the lines of what Melanie was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, adjusting our expectations for the future is going to help our housing supply, because $350,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage with a finished basement may not be the way to move this thing forward.
Mm-hmm. Do you know Ron Ireland? Is he on he's a realtor, but I don't know where he is. If he's just been a realtor for a long time, so I wasn't sure if he was on the board somewhere, but we had lunch today and he was talking about reducing restrictions across the board just to make it easier, like they've done in Texas and other areas where there's fewer restrictions on home building. Is that the along lines of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just have to embrace new models and different types of construction methods, things like that. Things that we haven't traditionally embraced in the past, I think we're going to be open to. And even us as realtors, we need to change our feelings about things like manufactured homes and other types of things when we're out showing property to our buyers and sellers. So it's just going to take a change of our thought process and what we've traditionally considered that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, because now it's already $350,000.
Well, and the other thing is, when you think about post-World War II housing, post-World War II housing was 2 to 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 1-car garage, maybe if you're lucky on a slab. And that was the starter home, right? And now we've moved to where we went through a variety of different things, and we have a different mindset or expectation now, and the market has since changed. So it's time to look at, like you said, Jeff, those different models and portfolio homes, like you said, James, and then just showcasing what's available and changing mindsets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. It's great.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm worried that my Wi-Fi connection is gonna do something strange. So if it cuts me off, I'll log right back in.
Okay, well, I'll get to question number 4 then. As growth continues, infrastructure demands obviously increase, from transportation to utilities and public safety. How would you balance the responsibility of development with the need to maintain and upgrade essential infrastructure and safety demands?
Yeah, those are 100% reliant on each other, because specifically in Summit, up till a few years ago, 80% of the revenue from the city came from single family home property taxes because there just wasn't enough development bringing in other types of revenue. So this last administration worked really hard to diversify the tax revenue. They established the public safety tax to make sure that the police were going to be safe, and they established the use tax because the state had not done that, and so now the city has their use tax to make sure we're getting that revenue. And then developers go completely hand in hand with that because it's when they come in, that revenue from the sale, and we're getting millions of dollars in revenue from whatever they're building, from the commercial or the sales or the retail traffic, that money goes right back into our operating budget to afford the infrastructure. And really, and so that's a cycle that will forever. Like the development brings the funds to maintain the people that are already living there. And in Lee Summit specifically, when I was born, there were 20,000 people almost 50 years ago, and now it's 108,000 people. Like, it's just skyrocketed over the years, and that was mostly from single family homes. It's only been the last few years that we've had multifamily. So single family homes are wide and sprawling, but it's expensive to support a block full of single family homes by itself if there's nothing else around it. And so
yeah, and you guys got really lucky with that public safety tax. I mean, I can't tell you guys how I really have to compliment your mayor on being able to get a public safety tax passed, because I'm going to tell you that when they pass, a lot of times it's very thin margins and a lot of times they fail. And that is unfortunate for public safety with growing places, because it's a tough sell to the public to get a sales tax in this day and age.
Yeah, I really agree with you. I mean, I think it was important to put it out there to the voters, and I'm proud that the voters thought the same way. We're happy to because in our community, there's nothing more important than, a safe community. You've got great schools, you've got great parks and rec, and we take all those things for granted, or we could take them for granted if we weren't willing to fund them. So I was really pleased that we had a place. And that's a whole other topic, is all about public safety. But yeah, so I think there's a very direct line between development and funding the city that we already have, and funding
anything specific on roads and bridges.
Well, yeah, the thing that they were able to pass in 2020 was that we had a huge no tax increase bond. And I think it was like $400 million. I'd have to double check, but they passed a huge bond, which was also due to the mayor and the group of them really being progressive with their tax planning. Because normally when a city does a bond, it's like a little $10 million project. But since they had created a strategic plan that looked 10 to 20 to 30 years out, they were able to projects and be like, we're going to fix this road and this road and this long punch list of projects that needed to get done. And they rolled them all into one giant $400 million bond. Now they're just crushed lists. For 2 years straight, there's just construction everywhere, and they're handling all these projects one at a time. And that included not only the roads and the bridges, but public safety, like firehouses and a joint operations center, fire and police. And so they've really done well with planning ahead and making sure those funds were there to handle those things. And at the same time, I know that our council travels to Jeff City annually, and we've got lobbyists that are trying to work on getting money from MoDOT for the bigger projects that we're not in charge of. But collaboration with MoDOT is just ongoing. That's you can only control so many things, but that collaboration is important.
So important. Gentlemen?
Yeah.
All right, Melanie, I'm going to bring us home here with one final question. As you might be aware, we're a trade association of 13,000 members, and a number of our members do business in Lee Summit. Just kind of curious, kind of a classic campaign question for you. What's your pitch to realtors in your area? Why should they cast their ballot for you?
What I want to do is make sure that our city can bring people in no matter what phase of life they're in. And statistics show that if a person cannot rent, start small in a town, then we other towns. So it's really important that our stay longer, their families and having their kids there. Like our homes are always turning over, and it's because people love it. Like our community is so strong because people love it. If we're not having the best schools and the best public safety and the best parks and rec and our huge parklands and our water areas, if we're not keeping up with those things, the desire goes down to live here. Like our development and our growth is why people keep coming. And so that is what I want to stay on the path of keeping us growing healthily so that people are always coming and turning over and staying for life. If we lose teenagers or people in their 20s to other towns, if people are moving to Overland Park or they're moving out of state, if we lose them, we lose the grandparents too. Like if we lose people, if we lose key members of the family, then everyone else follows. And we don't want that. We want it to be a place where people can come and stay and keep having their own generations. And I grew up with realtors all around me. My mom, Nancy Davis, worked with Block and Company, so I was running copies for them in the summer when I was little. So it's just always, I've been around realtors my whole life, and our family has long-term property. We have long-term properties in the Kansas City area, and they're needed. Like I want to work with realtors. I want to understand what they want. I want to know the issues that are important to them. I want to know what their advocacy issues are and how to help. It's such a big industry that we need to keep on top of and collaborate on. And the more people in the room solving problems is the faster way to get things done. I don't want people to be siloed off. If there's solutions to be had, I want people together in a room to solve them.
Well, we very much appreciate that response. And thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Does anyone else on the call have anything for the good of the group?
Thank you for your time, Melanie.
Thank you.
It was good seeing you, Melanie.
Thank you so much. Good to see you too. Good to see you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this time very much. I appreciate it.
You take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.